Hello everyone, this is part 35 of What If Naruto Was Like Edward Elric in Fullmetal Alchemist, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Konohagakure no Sato, Hokage Tower. The sun rose, beginning to illuminate the village in a peaceful orange glow. Only a few people were aware of just how dire things currently were, however, as the sunrise could have been an eventual precursor to orange flames licking at the village, signifying its destruction. She looked down at the note in her hand from her teacher that awaited her in her office that morning. It pretty much told her that he was going to be going with Naruto to Iwagakure on his endeavor to rescue Akiza. She almost crumpled the note up right then and there, but she had to read on. The note read that he had truly never done for Naruto what he felt should have been done for someone like him, that whether they knew it or not, Konoha took from him without him asking a single thing in return. Duty was one thing, but repeated self-s was another altogether. No matter the personal cost for him, this was completely his own choice, as he was no longer an active Konoha ninja. For all intents and purposes he was a civilian now, and considered what he was doing his way of repaying Naruto for the entire village. Not only that, but he had taken 4 of the village's Junin with him that all had a relationship to Naruto. 2 of whom had asked for a vacation the day before, having never done so before in their 7-year careers. 1 other whose entire presence in Konoha was because of Naruto, and the last one was his brother. And for some reason they all had an extreme enough connection to go with him. Setting aside the fact that it was a political nightmare, it was AS mission. Tsunade turned around. Jiraiya, how much about Naruto's alchemy do you know? She asked, not even letting Jiraiya attempt getting the drop on her. Wowheim. Jiraiya said, emerging from the shadows, you didn't even let me try anything this time. He joked before getting serious, honestly, next to nothing. I don't know exactly what it can do, but it's not because he was super secretive with it. He explained it to me as best he could because I would never be able to get it in 100 years of studying it. The embarrassing thing is, he was right. Tsunade looked at him strangely. Jiraiya was the premier user of fuinjutsu in the village, something considered to be the most difficult shinobi art to learn. However, alchemy was not a ninja art. You didn't get any of it. Jiraiya shook his head. Oh, I understood the using the elements that comprise something part, but after he explained that I was totally lost. It was like he was speaking in tongues, and he was always in his notes, going through different and new ways to use it in combat or otherwise. He said the reason that he understood so well was because he was taught early in life. That skill dominates that part of his brain. While other kids were learning to read and write well, Naruto was learning all of these formulas and the basics of alchemy. Other than the things that you already know he can do, I haven't the faintest idea the full extent of that technique. Can it be captured? Tsunade asked him. Iwa wanted him and would undoubtedly study his corpse once they accomplished the goal. If that were the case, they didn't really want the secrets to be lost. Jiraiya shook his head. Even if they somehow either Gaki and got him to teach classes on it, it wouldn't work. He and his brothers are the only ones that only can understand that stuff. Even if they got him to teach little kids, he could teach them the wrong thing on purpose and they wouldn't know until it was too late. He could possibly K off an entire generation of shinobi by trying to teach them alchemy. Why? Tsunade said. Alchemy seemed like something of a godsend to her. It didn't cost chakra, it was extremely difficult to learn but impossible to steal by someone who didn't already know it. She never even considered death as a possible outcome of attempting it. How can it K anyone if it doesn't work? Everything has to be exactly precise in your formulas and calculations apparently. Jiraiya explained. He lifted his hands to mimic a scale. He said something about when attempting a transmutation with too little, the alchemic forces would fluctuate wildly in order to compensate for the lack of material and would either take or give more than intended for it to work. Apparently it can mutilate or K. Tsunade shook her head, and he's been doing this since he was 6. Jiraiya nodded, but now what are we going to do? Sensei is with him, and if you thought we had a small chance of stopping him before, you have to realize that it's nearly impossible now. I only caught him the first time because he stopped to rest and plan for a moment too close to where I was coming back to village. If blank wanted to, he could take Eiko and travel along the communications lines along the countryside. Zabuza outran the Kiri hunter Nin for years and was never caught, and sensei, I don't think I need to say anything there. Sunad sat at her desk and turned it around to look at the morning glow of the village. So you're saying that they're probably already 2 countries away by now? She let out a sigh. Any ninja that I send after them at this point would just wind up caught in the crossfire and would place even more ire on the village, wouldn't it? What do we do? Run damage control. Jiraiya said simply, getting the slug summoning Hokage to look at him questioningly. Sensei left you that note and nothing but that note so you could have plausible deniability. Destroy it. Tell no one of this. Not their families, not the council, no one. If the backlash comes from Iwa, you can say that they acted on their own accord and that will lessen the hit. That is, if it gets loud and messy, but we all know that it probably will. Sunad looked at Jiraiya. People will ask questions, Jiraiya. Jiraiya shrugged. You're the goddamned Hokage. Since when do you answer to anyone? It might be annoying at times like this, but you might want to take that little trait from Naruto. Because you actually have the authority to back it up. You don't have to tell anyone about AF thing. XXX. With Naruto and company. Eiko frowned as she heard Naruto's plan of action to get Akiza out. That's genocide, Naruto-kun. What's wrong with you? They were still moving quickly through the most dangerous part of the region. The borders of Hai no Kuni and the 2 nations flanking it. The other 2 nations held Takagakure and Kusagakure, making it a hotbed border that no one touched. They wouldn't be disturbed traveling through this area as long as they kept out of anyone's notice. But if they were discovered, the potential for a multi-sided S raining down on them before they even got started was high. It's not the first choice. Naruto tried to reason, it's the ultimate last resort. Besides, I'm not going to use the entire village for one gigantic transmutation, with Akiza-chan still in it. I'll just carefully set it up and use it as an out to keep us from being pursued. I still have to get her out before I can even think of using it. Joshiro looked at his little brother and shook his head. Do you have any idea how big that goddamn circle is going to be? How long do you expect to have to set this up? We're on the clock here, not just on your girlfriend's time, but we're on Konoha's clock too. They probably sent someone after us. You and I can't draw a circle like that in one day, we can't draw one like that in 1 week. Duh, big boss. Naruto said, but I don't need you to do that. I'm a one-man army if you forgot. And I can leave clones behind to activate the transmutation in case Onoki team tries calling my bluff and coming after us once we get away from the village, so I don't need you for that either. Hiruzen decided to add into the conversation with his own years of experience. I have been to Iwagakure, Naruto-kun. I know where she will be held until they finish interrogating her. I can lead you there myself once we get inside the village. Blank blinked once a certain point was brought to his attention by the former Hokage's comment, guys. How are we even getting inside in the first place? It's not like we can just go under the defenses. Naruto and Joshiro both gave him looks, getting a sweet drop out of the electricity manipulating Junin. Okay, never mind. He had forgotten that Naruto and Joshiro could dig through the ground like moles or with the equal effectiveness of an earth ninjutsu master with their alchemy. Hey, I don't even know what I'm so worried about here. We've got a legendary ninja with us here. The god of shinobi, Hiruzen, Sarutobi. We're going to be fine, Hokage-sama. The amused old face of Hiruzen let out a short laugh at Blank's blunt statement. It's quite alright, Blank. But I am no longer the legend I once was. I am doing this for the debt that I myself owe Naruto-kun for all he has done for the village. I am volunteering as your squad leader, but treat me as you would any other shinobi in our situation. Naruto let out a chuckle. I might finally get to see the old man in action. So awesome. Eiko glared at him lightly. I hope we don't end up fighting so that you have to show how be you a Hokage, Gigi. I'm not the Hokage any longer, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen insisted. Naruto nodded in understanding. Okay, Sarutobi Gigi. Zabuza was the next to speak on the matter of their mission. So do you have a game plan or what? What exactly are our objectives and mission parameters? Is there a contingency plan? Is there anyone we need to be aware of having to confront? Come on, brats, we need to know this stuff if we're going to be heading into a hidden village. Well, The man did attempt an on the Mizukage over 10 years ago, so he had to know what he was talking about on the matter. But no one expected the two directors of this little Black Op to have an actual plan. Joshiro looked at Zabuza and everyone else. Alright, listen up you stains. We didn't plan for any of you to come with us. The runt was supposed to make his way to Tsuchi no Kuni and I was supposed to leave on my own and meet him there. But then he got himself busted by Jiraiya, so we had to postpone. Naruto glared at Joshiro and growled at the mention of Jiraiya's name. Calm down little brother. Naruto took a deep breath and did as directed. Okay, the plan. I will dig a hole to a secluded spot within Iwa and release enough cage bunshin under henge to scout out the defensive patterns, resealing the hole behind them and leaving the village. It's good because even if they come across as suspicious, they can just dispel out of sight and keep from getting us caught. They will also have the secondary objective of setting up our contingency plan, what we're going to use to get out in one piece if we end up getting caught. Next, Joshiro said, picking up where Naruto left off, once enough information has been gathered about the village, which shouldn't take long with the Runt's clones running amok, we will be going in and setting up remote diversions that we can activate once Naruto snatches up Akiza to cover his escape. To set him off we'll actually have to be inside of the village ourselves, so get ready for that. We're going to be right in the rat's nest when it all starts going down. If the kid is as stealthy as I think he is, we won't need to set any off, but we all know our collective luck is not that good. Amen, white-haired brat, Zabuza remarked, still listening intently. Said white-haired brat continued explaining the plan. Once Naruto starts making tracks with Akiza in tow, we'll begin meeting and joining up with each other and falling back to the outskirts of the village. Chances are that the elites are going to be all on RA, but we'll be ready for that when it happens eventually. The heat should be somewhat lessened significantly by Naruto and his never-ending horde of cage bunshin. Meanwhile, because I don't really use much chakra when I fight, I will have a cage bunshin of my own outside of the village waiting for the signal to pull the trigger on the one-shot village K, if it comes to that. Hopefully it won't, Hiruzen said solemnly. He really wasn't sure what Naruto and Joshiro had planned, but they both sounded like they were absolutely sure that what they had prepared would undoubtedly be their ace in the hole. I would rather not be responsible for wiping out a village in one attack. Well, put it this way, Sarutobi Gigi. Naruto said, even if we do, who's going to do anything about it? Who would really be that confident in trying to take Konoha on once they know that me and Big Boss can wipe them off of the face of the planet? And yes, that's a very dark thought. Joshiro picked up after his brother, but that's why this work is called the Devil's Science. Me and the brat are human weapons, tied to the will of combat and destruction. More so than any shinobi, and Naruto is more than anyone else because he isn't just a shinobi, he isn't just an alchemist like me, he's also a Jinchuriki. Speaking of which, how are you on chakra? Naruto frowned. I'm personally all full up. But on the other hand, I can't access any of Kyubi-chan's at all. That's okay, if I do this right I won't need her. So back to the plan. Once we get away we have a place to go to in the meantime to wait for all of the fallout. He grinned sheepishly. As of right now, they don't know that we're going to be going there, but they shouldn't turn us away, right? Joshiro smirked at Naruto. Well, if it comes to that point we'll just have to lop off your other arm so we can pay them to install another auto mail. That way we can say we have a legit reason for being there. Naruto shot a glare at Joshiro. No way in hell. Why don't we see off your arm instead? Aren't brothers supposed to be able to share experiences like that? Well, this is an experience 10 years in the making. Joshiro held his arms to his sea defensively. I need my real arms, thank you very much. We can't all transmutate without a circle like you. My shortcuts need my actual arms to work. He then continued speaking on the most important matter at hand, but that's just a rough outline of what we're to do. We can fine-tune it and what have you when we actually get there and start getting information. Zabuza grumbled, but realized that they didn't have the luxury he had of planning a coup in their own village. This was a foreign operation that they were on the clock to pull off with no support from the village of their allegiance and no one coming to bail them out in case things went south. Honestly, it wasn't any better than his plan. All he really did was attack the Mizukage alongside Haku and the Demon Brothers while he and the brothers were debriefing from a mission. At least this was an actual plan. Naruto's eyes hardened. We have to hurry, but we do have time. If they're really dedicated to getting information, Akiza-chan isn't going to give them anything. The only thing she really knows is stuff about me, and if they're actually interested in that she would never tell them anything. XXX. Awagako no Sato, Anbu HQ. Inside of Aki's cell she was still chained to the wall with her arms outstretched, only instead of the emotionless face she had been keeping to save face it was now twisted in agony, soft whimpers escaping every now and then. A series of footsteps walked towards the cell revealing themselves to be Kuretsuki, flanked by two Anbu. If you want the pain to stop Akiza, all you have to do is answer our questions. They can remove the parasite that you have eating away at your nerves just like that. Aki's tear-filled eyes panned up to Kuretsuki to reveal that the whites of her eyes had darkened somewhat. Not pitch black like her full berserker mode, her green eyes were still visible, just that her whites were darker, but it was still very unnerving. I am going to kill every last one of you when I get out of here. Every last one. You included, old friend. She hissed out lowly before biting back a shout of pain. Kuretsuki shook her head. Where is the parasite centralized right now, Akiza? Is it still just in your arms? She looked at the outstretched limbs to see them twitching, the fingers gripping tightly in resistance. Yeah, it is. So how is it feeling right now? I can guess, you probably want to chew your arms off like a trapped coyote right now. She directed the Anbu to open the cell so that she could enter. That's why we chained you up like that, she said, gesturing to Aki's outstretched arms. We've actually had people do that to themselves after a certain point to stop the pain. So just tell us, what is the secret behind alchemy? Your little boyfriend isn't the only person that we've heard of that uses it. He apparently has a loudmouth brother that's gotten rather famous with his own brand of alchemy. Apparently they don't fight anything alike, so this alchemy isn't one-dimensional. So tell us what you know about it. Akiza was silent for a moment before speaking in a whisper, prompting Kuretsuki to lean in to hear her. What was that, Akiza-chan? You're going to get hurt, she mumbled before trying to lunge forward to bite at Kuretsuki's tea. She missed, getting Kuretsuki to at least back away from her, but the smirk on the young woman's face was progressively pissing her off. You really should get more sleep, Akiza. Kuretsuki taunted. Your eyes aren't looking so good. Akiza let out a pained laugh. I couldn't sleep even if you didn't have this stupid parasite inside of me. I'm too far away from Fullmetal to sleep peacefully. For some reason his presence dulls the effect of Seki Kiritateru's curse. But now I'm suffering from withdrawal, that's why my eyes look like this. The curse hurts far more than anything your pathetic Anbu consider humane. I barely feel your little bug. Kuretsuki frowned. Well, that's good to know, Akiza. She pulled out a pair of syringes as the Anbu outside of the cell entered and held Akiza's legs. So you're saying that having the parasites in your legs won't hurt you either? Akiza, too weak to struggle, ended up getting the injections into her legs, before scream of pain tore from her tea. Well, I guess you aren't going to tell us anything. But don't worry. Tsuchikage-sama is getting tired of waiting on something from you and just wants your bond with your weapon broken so that he can reissue it. You only have to deal with a few more days of this. Akiza yelled at Kuretsuki through her curses and screams. Fullmetal is going to turn this godforsaken mud pit into a lifeless wasteland. And whether I'm alive or not, I'm going to be laughing at you all the entire time, either from his arms or in hell. Blah, blah, whatever. Kuretsuki said. He must have really been a K in the sack to brainwash you into think that he would walk into something like this just for you. He had to be a glorified deity in bed, because you think he actually has the ability to do it. Status quo says he'll just cry for you, swear his vengeance and try to K any Iwa ninja he comes across for the rest of his miserable life. Just like anyone else that lost someone to a foreign village. Akiza didn't anything. Great, no matter how much this hurts I can't black out. If I black out then I'll just get blasted with the voices that the stupid Naginator K all throughout its existence and I'll lose my mind. But as long as I stay awake I'll just feel these stupid bugs chewing on my nerves like a rawhide. She glared hatefully at the Anbu and Kuretsuki, tears of pain going down her cheeks. Keep thinking that. I'll keep thinking what I know is going to happen. Shaking her head in disappointment, Kuretsuki turned away from Akiza before leaving the cell again. No matter what, you're going to Akiza. You might as well tell us what we need to know so that at least you can spend your last few days before the extraction process and the E in relative peace and comfort. What are you talking about? Akiza said as the cell closed, isolating her from the rest of the world once more with Kuretsuki walking away. This is great. I've got your little bugs my nerves. I've got this glorified yoga stretch going on for 3 days strong at this point. I'm seeing old acquaintances. And I'm grateful that you're keeping me up, this is fun. It's like a big old sleepover. She heard the door to the prisoner facility close with a resounding thud, leaving her alone with her own insomnia and pain. I haven't felt like this in my entire life. I haven't felt this alone since I first started traveling with Fullmetal. Hey, the idiots think I know anything about alchemy. They don't realize how complicated that entire process is. Even if I explained what I knew, they wouldn't understand a thing, not that I would ever do anything to betray Fullmetal anyway. I know the loneliness of not having anyone. And I know the feeling of trying to find your purpose for life. I won't let anyone close to me feel that way ever again if I can help it, and if you stay with me I will keep you safe. You're not unwanted, and I'll show you that myself. It's not your fault this happened, Fullmetal, you did always keep me safe. This only happened when I left your side. You've given me everything. I've never asked you for anything, but you gave me absolutely everything freely. You let me know I was wanted, and you did give me a purpose. Akiza shut her eyes amid the pain racking her body. I love you, Fullmetal. I just wish I could see you again to tell you that myself. XXX. With Naruto and company, 2 days later 15 miles outside of Iwagakure. Naruto and Joshiro had carved out a makeshift underground facility for the team to stay in until it was time for the mission to begin. Naruto sat on the floor of the man-made cavern, going over his notes, more specifically a forbidden section that Joshiro had instructed him to never look at. I thought this was one of the things I told you to never look at. Naruto turned around to see Joshiro looking over his shoulder with a stern face. He opened his mouth to defend himself when Joshiro see him off. It's okay. For what we have planned on this asinine mission of ours, it's going to be necessary. But I've got to ask you, if we did do this, and you did waste this village in one night, could you live with yourself? Naruto put his notes together neatly and stood up, dusting his pants off. I don't know, big boss. What about you? Even though it's my plan, in the end it's going to be you pulling the trigger. Joshiro put a hand on Naruto's head. I've told you, runt. I could care less about myself at this point. I'm not going to let you lose the only person that has ever loved you the way I lost mine, except we have one difference, I found others. You, Haku-chan. If you lose Akiza, I don't know where you would turn to. So I'm willing to key my own inhibitions and do this for you. Besides, I taught you everything we used to know when we were kids. It's only right that the master take responsibility for this. Naruto pulled Joshiro's hand off his head with a smile before he got a look at something new on Joshiro's palm. Big boss, what is this? Did you just put this on? Joshiro pulled his hand away from Naruto's grip and showed him both of his palms. They both had tattoos of a circle with a triangle inside, in addition to an alchemic symbol inscribed inside of the triangles. Nope, I did these while you were gone on your little trip. You'll have to wait to see what they do. You aren't the only one that has shortcuts. Naruto squinted in the low light and looked at the marks. What do they do? He asked. Joshiro lowered his hands and walked away. Bad stuff. Now stop looking at the circle you're supposed to draw. You already know how to make it. Obsessing over it would just make you second guess what you're willing to do to get Akiza back. Naruto nodded with an uncharacteristic frown on his face. It's supposed to be a worst-case scenario situation. We shouldn't have to use it. My clones are pretty far along in drawing it too. Joshiro blinked. Really? But how are they drawing it so fast? It has to go and encompass the entire village or else it won't work. Yeah, Naruto said, but I don't have to draw the circle on the surface for it to work. He pointed to a tunnel against the back wall. This is the activation point once it comes time to start. My clones are carving a perfect replica of the circle we need underground. And they can't sense my clones, because they're not using chakra. Joshiro looked at the tunnel in awe. You do know that if this works, we'll have created the greatest battle plan in history, right? We'll be the guys that walked into and out of the heart of one of the 5 most powerful ninja villages and got away with it. Hell, if it all blows up in our faces and we have to use the transmutation circle, we'll have taken down an entire village alone. If that doesn't make us famous as hell, I don't know what will. Naruto grinned. I'm already S-rank, big boss. I don't know how much more famous I want to be. I have enough enemies and enough of a bounty on my head. Well, compared to you, my bounty is chump change. Joshiro said, offended at the fact. Do I really not inspire that much intimidation in the shinobi world? I thought I was awesome. My bounty barely cracks 5 million, while you on the other hand max out at 125 million. Now most of it is an exaggeration based on potential and overblown hearsay, but it's potential that can be fulfilled, and rumors that have a bit of truth to them, and they don't even know that. I can do it too. I'm just as dangerous as you. Onoki team and Orochi team don't think so. Naruto quipped lightly at his older brother. What does that tell you? Joshiro glared down the tunnel towards Iwa. That I need to bust Summer on this mission so I get taken seriously. Where the F are Blank and Eiko. Calm down, Joshiro-kun. Hiruzen entered the hideout alone as he addressed the white-haired young man. Your two teammates are simply carrying out some reconnaissance of their own. We can't all just head in with nothing but Naruto-kun's clone's point of view as a reference point. He then looked at the youngest member of the ragtag squad. You do know where she's being held, right? Absolutely. Naruto said, I thought about scrapping this plan and trying to dig in directly under the HQ where she is and get her back out through that tunnel, but I don't know what the tower material is made of, so I might end up hurting myself or bringing the entire place down trying to dig a little hole. I've still got to go in through the front. Nothing worth doing is ever easy, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen said reassuringly, I trust your backup plan is going well enough. At that moment, one of Naruto's clones emerged from the tunnel. Boss, it's amazing down there, you've got to see it. We've been working our off and I stopped to look at it when we finished. It's so awesome in there. Here, check it out. The clone then suddenly burst. Naruto stood for a moment before smirking. Oh, this is so money. Alright, we're working this one out right on schedule. Naruto said to himself, I think I'm going to go in there and check it out myself. Naruto walked inside the tunnel that his clones had dug, followed by Hiruzen and Joshiro, who were both marveling at the quality of Naruto's clones' work. There was plenty of space, the tunnels were even on all sides, it was top-notch work. Joshiro could only imagine what it would look like if the circle was exposed. It would have been a masterpiece. This is why we never wanted to give you the secrets of alchemy, old man. Joshiro said to Hiruzen, who was clearly marveling at what a 15-year-old was capable of with alchemy on his side. If we had given this to you, how would you have used it? Hiruzen's eyes widened when he was asked that question. When he first requested Joshiro to allow Konoha to use the art of alchemy, he was going to try and teach it to his elites, his Junin. Now he realized how terrible an idea that would have been. If he had another Orochimaru on his hands and someone had left Konoha with a grievance and skills with alchemy, they could have done this to Konoha. A bomb that would lie under the village, waiting to be triggered by anyone with an appy for destruction. Joshiro shook his head as he saw the look on the old man's face. Now, I'm not saying that Naruto and I are necessarily the right hands, but when you think about it, there are far worse people that could know how to do this. We're only using it to get Naruto's Akiza back. We would never have even considered this otherwise. We're not going to trigger it unless everything goes to S. Hiruzen's eyes snapped up to Joshiro. So when you told me you felt like destroying Konoha for what they did to your brother, you actually could have done it. Joshiro frowned at the former Hokage. No. Not back then. I couldn't dig like this back then. Not like I can now. Joshiro flicked the ring on his right hand and turned it into his spiked cestus. The runt is in a whole league of his own, a master of manipulating his surroundings perfectly. But even if I wanted to, back when I was truly angry at Konoha, I could never do anything to it, even if I did have the ability to at the time. Hiruzen nodded and looked forward at Naruto, who was leading them through the tunnels, because of Naruto-kun. He wouldn't have wanted you to do it. Joshiro ran a hand through his hair. You have no idea how much you owe that kid. Konoha will just never know. A few of us do, Joshiro-kun. Hiruzen said to the young man, that's why I'm here. That's why we're here. They both stopped speaking and came to a halt when Naruto stopped moving and placed his hand on the ceiling of the tunnel. He had led him all the way through the tunnel, through so many turns and straightaways, and stopped in that specific spot. There was only one reason he could have wanted to stop there. She's right here, Naruto said to the others quietly, as if he were talking to himself. She's right here, and I can't just punch my way through and get her. Joshiro placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and directed him back towards the way they came. It's all right, Naruto. It's just a matter of going to get her now. Things are almost ready. Naruto looked at his older brother and began walking back to their base. XXX. 2 days later, Awagakure no Sato, Anbu HQ. Akiza weakly lifted her head as the sound of her cell door opening reached her ears. A weak smirk came to her face at seeing who it was. Tsuchikage-sama, it's good to see you again. What can I do for you? Onoki was at eye level with the girl who was still chained to the wall and sitting against the wall. Seeing as how you're still useless as you don't even have any decent information on Konoha, we only have one use for you. All we need is for you to cough up that priceless weapon of yours and then we can end your life. Akiza let out a laugh. And how do you plan on doing that? Do you really think I'm going to summon Seki Kiritateru here just because you want me to? I'm not going to curse some other poor fool who thinks that carrying that miserable stick is some kind of honor for this village. Are you even going to tell them about the curse before you get them to bond with it, or are you going to let them figure it out on their own like you did with me? Onoki smirked right back at her. Well, look at how you handled it. You did just fine for being our weakest Junin. No such thing as a weak Junin, Akiza mumbled. Yeah, I'm weak and I beat your granddaughter's A. The only reason I'm here is because Hans saved her and caught me himself. Her head snapped to the side abruptly as a stinging red mark appeared on her face. Didn't hurt. But I can see that you still don't see Han as anything more than a demon, stupid. Her head snapped to the other side with another red mark on her cheek. You all really like me, don't you? Onoki shook out the hand he used to hit her and sneered down at her. We don't need you to summon your weapon. We have a way to extract your bond with the blade. Once we do that, the weapon will appear right at your feet, and we'll take it to give to another more deserving shinobi to train with after we you publicly. An end and a new beginning. Fitting, isn't it? The Anbu guards moved to unchain her, like something out of a goddamn storybook, Akiza said sarcastically. She then saw a green gleam in the low light around Onoki's Fullmetal's necklace. Onoki saw that she had noticed the Shodime Hokage's crystal. Oh, this. Yes. Thank you for bringing this. Until I find a buyer for this priceless little thing, it's quite a fine trophy in the meantime. What a victory. She weakly tried to struggle as she was dragged to her feet and pulled out of the cell by the 2 guards. That doesn't belong to you. Don't you have any respect or honor? Fullmetal gave that to me, he trusted me with it. Onoki chuckled as Akiza was dragged away by the guards. Well, then he trusted in the wrong person. You weren't strong enough to be trusted to keep something like this. But if he was a fool enough to give this to you for safekeeping, then he deserved to have this taken from him, obviously. Now stop struggling. You couldn't fight off a baby kitten as you are right now. We never even took the parasites out of you, you're in crippling pain. Fullmetal wouldn't have quit. Akiza snapped back at him, and I don't care if my arms and legs are useless, you gnome. You're short enough that even on the ground I'm still at eye level with you, I'll bite your tea out. This isn't over. The doors to the prisoner wing shut behind her and the guards moving her. Oh yes, it is, my dear. Onoki said, holding the necklace in his hand as he slowly followed behind at a reserved, leisurely pace. It is indeed over, as you say. XXX. Outside of Awagakure, Naruto and the others stood atop one of the rocky mountain ranges surrounding the village, looking down on it. Naruto's eyes firmly locked on the largest, most prominent building in the village. Joshiro moved at his side. Are you ready, Runt? Naruto nodded wordlessly and formed his cage bunshin seal, making 3 copies. They all immediately jumped into the air and flew off into the sky on their clouds, vanishing from sight above the village. He noticed the others looking at him strangely, forcing him to elaborate. Air support. Joshiro nodded. All right, you all know what to do. Positions. And stay alive, damn it, Joshiro said before the others all broke off. Zabuza staying with him. Blank and Eiko going off on their own, and Naruto and Hiruzen going their own way. Zabuza sighed and watched as his son-in-law sat down in a lotus position, overlooking the village. So now we wait, a white-haired brat. Joshiro nodded. Now we wait. XXX. With Naruto and Hiruzen. It didn't take long for the god of shinobi and the pupil of Jiraiya to sneak their way to a point just outside of where Akiza was being held, where they both lurked in the shadows. Hiruzen looked over at Naruto. Are you fully prepared for this, Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded grimly. I've been ready for a week, Sarutobi Gigi. Are you ready? Hiruzen smiled humorlessly. Who do you think you're talking to, Naruto-kun? How do you think I got famous in the first place? I've lived this kind of thing for years. That brought a grin out of Naruto. You sure you still know how to do all of this in your advanced age? You might have forgotten how to do all of this, no matter how good you used to be. Hiruzen chuckled and kept his eyes on their objective building. Never mind that. Old soldiers never Naruto-kun, and we never lose our touch. XXX. With Blank and Eiko. Inside of a small building sitting by a narrow waterfall, Eiko used her specialized weapon to see down another of the shinobi guards she had come into conflict with. One Iwa shinobi drew a kunai and tried sneaking up on her before a hand gripped around his tea tightly. The hand started generating electricity, shocking the man to death before dropping him. Blank moved from the shadows, smirking at Eiko, having trouble there baby. Eiko rolled her eyes. I beat all of them right off of the bat except the last two Blank-kun. Now come on, we need to get to your spot to prepare the signal. Blank scratched his scalp and yawned. Yeah, whatever, I'm the sabotage specialist, blah, blah, blah. The two walked into another room and then outside where a series of massive power generators sat. All of the electricity of a Wagakur was run through this area. This is really going to piss off a lot of people when we do this, you know that right? Eiko pouted at him for saying something so stupid. That's the general idea. We're supposed to piss everyone off and get their attention so that Naruto-kun can get in and do his thing. Yeah, I hear you, Blank said, cracking his knuckles before he placed his hands right on one of the generators, ignoring the electricity surging off of the high-voltage machinery. Raten, Denshi Kyushu, lightning release, electric absorption. Blank's body began to glow blue as he started sucking up all of the electricity from the generator. Eiko, with that glorified lightning rod on your back, you may want to back off quite a bit, as in get outside, now. Lightning began dangerously snapping away from Blank's body. You can't hold all of that electricity though. It will destroy your body in a matter of minutes. Eiko yelled at Blank as she got away from the building. I know, these are my clan techniques after all. But I'm not keeping it. I'm going to use it. He shouted back to her as the light from inside grew more and more intense, sounds of electricity crackling running rampant. Eiko placed her hands on her hips. Use it. What in Kami's name are you going to use it for immediately? Blank was silent for a second before answering, a cheeky tone evident in his response. Nogami clan Haijutsu sweetheart. XXX. With Joshiro and Zabuza. Zabuza noticed the lights of the village flickering. It's almost time to make your move, kid. I've got your back. I know, Zabuza, and thanks for coming all this way for me and the runt. I really appreciate it, Joshiro said, still sitting serenely with his eyes closed. I'm ready, just trying to get my mind right. Is this going to be that hard on you? Zabuza asked. He had never really seen Joshiro be serious about something before. The lights flickered out once and for all, signifying that it was time to officially start. I'm going to make myself sick after I do this, he said, standing up. You know, there's a really good reason I'm not famous, even though I went on that mission to bring down one of Orochimaru's bases in Hai no Kuni with my squad. The one that ended up with that B-Gurren and her team K, my team's sensei, when he tried to let us escape. I remember that, Zabuza said. You really took that man's death hard. Haku had to stay with you for 2 weeks. Joshiro shook his head. It wasn't just his death, it was what I did after he has to finish them all off. He reached into his vest, when I really found out what Big F transmutation was supposed to be for. He pulled out a small B-red stone. This. Zabuza looked at him strangely. Okay, I don't understand too much about alchemy, but what is that supposed to do? Joshiro placed the stone inside of a groove in his pendant around his N. This is the ultimate alchemic amplifier. With this, you can't even begin to understand what I can do. But you will. 2 years ago, after I found out what this was and how I made it, I swore I would never use it. I guess I'm just an inglorious bastard. He clapped his hands together, joining his tattoos on his palms together. Because today, Zabuza, we are in the business of Keiwa Ninja, and let me tell you, Tusan, business is booming. Joshiro placed his hands on the ground as the stone around his N glowed. This is Red Lotus alchemy. A line of explosions elled their way from in front of Joshiro down the face of the mountain and began to branch off once it hit the ground, tearing through a Wagakur in a pattern, taking out tons of property with one move. Zabuza looked at the damage caused by Joshiro's one attack in abject astonishment. Jushiro turned to Zabuza and gestured towards the stone that was still glowing red, and this is the Philosopher's Stone. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.